Hey, friends, welcome to She Believed. I am your host, Christina Guerrero. This one, my friends, is for those of you who are Latina, who love a Latina, who know a Latina. And honestly, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably one of three people because you're listening to me, a Latina. This conversation was so good for my soul on so many different levels. But culturally speaking, I just really felt seen. As Latinas, many of us grow up carrying these kind of unspoken rules about success and family and sacrifice and que dirán, what will they say? I didn't realize how many of those beliefs that I was still carrying until I read today's guest's book, aptly titled, What Will They Say? She is an author, filmmaker, and speaker. Denise Soler Cox joins me for a conversation that quickly became much more than an interview. We talk about identity, worth, and the stories that we have culturally inherited and the courage it takes to rewrite them. We're going to jump right into this conversation, you guys. Where I am talking about my boobs. Okay? Just trust me. It all connects. Take a listen. I'm going through breast reconstruction right now after cancer.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, it's really important for me to say it's not about vanity. It's not
Mhm.
about having great boobs. It's not about having a great body. It's not about showing off this new and improved person. And I was like, why am I having such a hard time with just saying, I want my body back and I want it to look amazing and I want to feel good in my own skin. I was like, what is that? And I have been wrestling with it. I've actually been talking about it quite a bit. What is that? And then reading that chapter in your book about women and how we're supposed to be humble and
Mhm.
find humility. I was like, is that where I'm making that connection and didn't see it?
Yeah. So what did you end up with? Where did you
I
land?
think
Or
that's
have you?
what it is, very much, I've never wanted to I've always thought being seen as funny or smart was way better than what I looked like and that's certainly true, but there was something
Mhm.
deeper in that. In other words, you can't be too much of anything. You can't be
Mhm.
too pretty, you can't be too smart, you can't be too funny, you can't be too successful, and I feel like that ceiling has blocked me, and
Yes.
like, is that where it comes from?
Oh. Well, I'm on team, damn, you get a second chance at having great boobs. I would be so excited. And also I get the literal feeling of that immediate thing. Like it's almost like making money and like what we do for a living. Like I don't do it for the money, there has to be some kind of greater purpose. It's a very similar kind of duality that you're talking about, and tension. Like I can't admit to you that I love making enough money to support my family and not have to worry. I have to always string it together or tether it to the sense of purpose that I have, or else I don't feel like I'm enough or I'll be accepted or what will they say? Right. And so the same thing with your body. Like it's not about vanity, but why can't it be? Why can't it be about both? And so these are great questions. And like I loved that it met you exactly where you were. And
Yes.
my greatest hope with the book is that people will have these aha moments and then talk about it with a girlfriend whose chances are having a similar struggle, and then we get to kind of snap away finally from this need to have to pretend that we're something we're not, right? Like
Right.
why can't we just admit I want a great body. I lost it and I'd like to have it back, please. And thank you. Or I'd like to have a career that is fulfilling, but also makes a ton of money. Like that's okay too, you know?
Yeah. Would you say that's cultural or universal or both?
I think it's both. And
Okay.
so one of the things that I got a lot of feedback on in the process, and I know that you also have a book, and so I'm sure you're familiar with this, but people telling me their opinions, when I told them I wrote a book about taboos and secret keeping in the Latino community, right? And the book is specifically written for Latinas. The purpose wasn't to leave anyone out. It was to call in the community of women who shared something with me and left a piece of themselves with me. And in the leaving of that, they trusted me to do something with it. And I honored that thing by making it kind of for them. also knowing it's universal, but really, really, it's for us.
Yeah, I do appreciate that because we're often left out of that conversation, right? And when you can
Yes.
validate somebody's feelings in in a way that brings them in and makes them feel seen, you're opening doors for people that you didn't that didn't know those doors were available to them. Before I turn this into my own personal therapy session, let's break down some of the patterns that you have seen within the Latina community that seems to keep us just right underneath breaking that glass ceiling. And not just patterns from maybe, our own idiosyncrasies, but things that you found culturally that are keeping us
Oh, right.
right
Yeah,
right below the breakthrough.
there's so much talent and so much brilliance, and there's just so much like potential. Like that is my experience of meeting Latinas on the road over the last 10 years. So pick anything that anyone wants to do, right? Which is different than what they're doing. And let's just say what they're doing is safe job with benefits. That was all my mom ever wanted. Get a good job,
Yes.
benefits, right? And
Right.
so these women would share whatever they wanted, whatever, fill in the blank, a business they wanted to start, career that they wanted to pursue, a promotion, maybe moving out of the country or to a different part of this country. And most of them would say, well, I can't do it because, que dirán? What will they say? And that was always the thing. Or like they would say, pues sigue la lucha. Ugh, like the struggle continues and I can't do it because I'm in the struggle. And so that is the tie-in. That's the tethering to the cultural taboos that when it comes to la lucha, that we can't really ever have anything that we
Yeah.
really want. And that struggle really is at the top of all of our agendas or all of our, that we're too connected to struggling. And that
Mhm.
is way too revered in our shared community. And then the other one is this incredible preoccupation, which we share with other humans, with what will other people say? I have a law degree, or I have this degree, or I live here. How dare I, want to do this? Who am I to do this? And so the common denominator, though, of most everything was, what will they say? So not what do I think of myself? Will I be proud of myself on my deathbed that I didn't live a life of regret? It instead was, what will other people say?
And isn't it interesting? It's not even like, what will the people who are closest to me say? It's almost like the guy you haven't talked to in like 20 years, like, what is she gonna say? And then what is she gonna call like the neighbor? And you know what I mean? Like, it's not even
Yeah.
like our nearest and dearest. We're like worried about some like person who, for whatever reason, is stuck in our heads. Isn't that true?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. It's funny. It just reminds me of my husband, who is not Latino. I call him the gringo cowboy. I always say he's like a real cowboy from Oklahoma. That man, he really, really, really wants to be an actor. And for a while, he acted in LA. He had an agent. He had a lot of really incredible opportunities when he lived in LA. And then through life and whatever, we get together in our love story. We get together, and that dream is kind of over for now. However, that is really what he wants to do. And so anytime he peeks his head out at that world, he says he gets preoccupied with what the people that he went to high school will say. And he knows it, but it's so weird. He's like, I haven't even talked to these people. I don't even respect many of these people.
Right.
But
I mean,
yet,
I saw them on
those.
Facebook one time. They don't, and we're so preoccupied with what other people think. And then I have to remind, nobody's thinking about me. Nobody's thinking about me that way.
Yep. We're only thinking about ourselves. And also sometimes it does it does take over, and it's without it just seems to have a life of its own. And I will say, and I'll speak for myself when I say, whenever I've been preoccupied with those same things, or when I find myself preoccupied with what they'll say, it's always because I'm just afraid, you
Mm,
know?
yeah.
And I'm just afraid of what they'll say. Eliminate the what they'll say. I'm just afraid because I don't know who I am. Like this book, I don't know who I am with the book out there. It's yet to be out. It's coming out in August. I don't
Wow.
know who I am with a book that reveals so much of my truth. I don't know who I am in relation to all these people all over the world, hopefully that will hold the truth of my life,
Yeah.
um, I'm afraid of that, just and mostly because of the unknown. How will I handle the feedback? How will I don't have the answers to those questions, you know? So
Because they
it's
haven't
something.
happened yet.
Exactly,
But
exactly.
also it's interesting, and I'm grateful that you say that because, you know, as I go into the keynote world to share my experience and share my story and all of these things, what I'm not trying to do is say that I have it figured out. Like you're not saying, "I've done this for 10 years and now I have the answer. I am cured, let me cure you." Like, right? Like, you like, this is that's not how it works.
No, but there are a lot of people that do that. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
I'm not one of
I
those
don't trust
people.
those people.
Yeah, I don't trust them at all because it's like, I just don't get like, I mean, of course, there's certain things like you can know just because you have enough experience, but having it figured out, like in the book, I literally say, I am not writing this from a mountaintop. Like, and actually, one of my favorite lines in the whole book, we can be both powerful and unfinished. I believe that,
Yes.
you
I mean,
know? And yeah,
that's also, if not more so inspiring than I have it all worked out, right? Because
right,
it gives people the opportunity to feel like, "Oh, I don't have to have it all figured out before I move forward, before I start chasing, before I start doing." You know, I think
right.
that's a lot of times what holds us back as well, right? That perfection. But going back to what will they say? Is it in what will they say if I succeed? What will they say if I fail? Like, either way, like, we're still bound by that. Like, sometimes in my career, I felt like, what are they going to say if I succeed too much? They're going to say te crees mucho, right? You think
Mhm.
you're like, you're so conceited, right? So we are very preoccupied with that, with that feeling of what will they say, and that's very much in our culture, so much so that when I talk about the things that I talk about, from sobriety to my drinking problem, I always think of my mom. "Christina, why are you telling people this?" She's going to think, what is grandma going to say? What are the neighbors going to say? What are the family going to say?
So real, so
Right?
real. So
And it's
yeah,
not
so
just in the success, it's just it's in the failures, but it's also in the success.
it's in all of it, yeah, and it's like it's in I mean, failure, it's in success, it's in choices, and, like, what you just brought up, I've always, had a very challenging relationship with my mom, and, writing a book about taboos, I was not planning on sharing the one of the biggest secrets of my life was that, many people in my kind of nuclear family, even extended, like first cousins and stuff like that, they know that my mom and I just historically just have never gotten
But it
along.
a little
This
bit.
is just a fact, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody knows. But to the outside world, being on tour with the film, especially, and especially with Latino audiences, so many people would say, "Your mom must be so proud of you," or "What does your mom say?" And I would lie because I didn't want to deal with it. I would say she's really proud of me. I would say, but that's not what happened, right? And and that's the first time I've admitted that ever, but here we go. So, yeah, I was not truthful, but in the book, I bumped into what you just said. Like, I think of my mom, like it's where we naturally go. That I also think of my mom, and I thought a lot about my grandmother too. And I actually gave quite a bit of thought to the idea of my grandmother and what my grandmother passed down to my mom and that was
Mhm.
passed down to me. And so not in a I'm blaming them way, but just in trying to deconstruct and understand that at the time, my grandmother needed, with the things and the events in her life, which I describe in the book, she had to present as perfect. Otherwise, she was it was just not going to be good for her, And with the church, with her community, with so many parts of her life. And I kind of took that and used it as an explanation for why my mother was so, uh, hard on me. And
Yeah.
so kind of separating the woman from what was passed down a little bit, as a way to understand it myself, and then also to give other women who might have challenging relationships. And it's such a no-no that I mean, I feel like nobody really admits it except for on Mother's Day. A few of us, peek our heads out. This year I finally did and wrote a Substack about it. But just a handful of women, and I'm talking about Latinas because Other
Mm.
women in other cultures will talk about it, but in our culture, I'm not
No.
sure there's any worse taboo than if you have a bad relationship with your mother, nobody better know, right?
Yes.
It's not
Yeah.
okay. You should not discuss it.
So many
So,
things that you said just within that. First of all, it's deconstructing, not to blame, but to process and understand. And then also, like, for me in this journey of deconstructing is giving grace, right?
mhm.
Giving grace to my mom, giving grace to my dad, recognizing that they did the best that they could with what they had, right? And so not giving blame. But then the other thing that you said is the taboos, the things we're not supposed to talk about. The fact that I talk so openly about my drinking problem, my dad
Mm,
is an alcoholic, had no problem sharing that with people. I was like, my dad was an alcoholic and, banned in the family. But for me to talk about that, I just felt like this is not something we talk about, but I need to honor my truth. So talk to me a little bit about the things that we keep behind closed doors. And then because of that, we're not able to process or heal or even recognize them. I mean, you were doing it up until you were saying like, "Oh, my mom is proud." You were still trying to hold that
yeah.
perfect, relationship that people wanted to believe existed.
Yeah. So the thing is that it was one of those things I just said because I didn't want to deal with it because part of
Yes.
me was embarrassed. I
More
didn't
questions.
Yeah, I don't want any questions. I don't want any advice. I don't
Mhm.
want any commentary, right? So it's kind of a prickly, it's a kind of a, it's an act of courage that I even did it at all, but I couldn't write the book without sharing this. And for anyone that's listening, if you're curious about the chapter, it's chapter 6. And there's some sprinkling in other chapters too, but really chapter 6 is really what where I share very deeply about the relationship. And so this is best explained through this idea that's in chapter 11. And my daughter is graduating high school tomorrow, and her and I'm thoroughly committed to having like the most epic relationships with my two daughters that I possibly can have. And so part of that is I listen to them like whatever they want to talk about. And so now when my kids get home from school, they share everything with me. And so 2 years ago, my daughter was 16. She's 18 now. And she came home from school and she wanted to tell me about her AP physics, something she learned in AP physics. And I was like, okay, focus because like AP physics, right? And I'm taking out the plates from the dishwasher and she's telling me the story and how this concept called thermal equilibrium works. And in a nutshell, it's a physics concept that says that if we were in a warm cabin in the woods and it was freezing cold out and snowing, and someone opened the door, we would have an inclination to say, "Don't let the cold in. Shut the door." Right? And she said, that's actually wrong. What physics says is that the warmth in the cabin will leave and try to warm up the cold outside the
Mhm.
cabin. And I was like,
Okay.
huh? Oh, and she just and I'm like, tell me again. And literally 3 times she told me. And then I had to go to the living room and lie down because I was having this massive adult version of an aha that I've like, it's the biggest aha of my adult life. And it explains exactly what you just said. So the reason why I lied and said, oh, she's proud of me, or it's fine, she loves it, and just totally pretended like everything was okay is because that is a cold space in my life. And I've shut the door and thrown away the key. And in the book, I describe it as things that we keep in cold storage. And so it could be anything from the relationships that we have that we're embarrassed aren't as good as we might wish. It might be sexual assaults, it might be domestic violence, it might be what it was really like to have to deal with a breast cancer diagnosis and parts of the story that you're just not ready to share that you might not ever think that you would share, like stuff that we hold back because we just can't handle the idea of of like what they will say if it comes out, right? And
Right.
then who we might need to be uh, if it comes out, if and when it comes out. And so the whole concept is, how do we warm up those cold spaces? And so for me, warming up is a metaphor of telling the truth. And so telling the truth is being willing to not know who I am going to have to become in order to deal with, let's say, the criticism for people talking about, me being honest about my mom, or honestly any of the things I shared in the book, because I share quite a bit. Everything that I chose to share in the book has actually been told to me before many times, but it's just another woman's experience, if that
Mm.
makes sense. So
Yes.
women would share their own version. And so I chose to share my own version of the stories they were telling me.
And don't you feel like when we open up, when we give ourselves permission to be vulnerable and to talk about the things that no one wants to really talk about, it gives other people permission to say, I have a story or an experience or a fear or a dream or whatever the case is, just like it. It like almost like gives them permission to speak on their cold storage.
Yeah. And like, take a look. I would invite people to take a look at the shoulders of people when they share their story or when they share their truth. When you have shared your truth, whatever it is, right? Take a look at the shoulders and see how they relax. And
Mm,
see how someone's face, like, a lot of times people will start crying. It's like a release happens because they can finally, like, relax. And
yeah.
because and I'm not saying to, like, get a mic and, broadcast, these things that we've been holding as secrets, but what I am saying is there is some relief out there, and sometimes it's gonna need to be with a therapist or a best friend or a sibling, a parent, what have you. It's got to be, though, with at least one person that you trust, and then take it from there. But yes, when we are willing to just share our truth about anything
Mhm.
that's considered taboo, right? Um, yes, it's like we release, it's like a release valve. And and then everybody gets to step in the circle. Everybody gets to feel the warmth of that. And some people will match that moment with their own truth, and then it works as like a domino. And so that's another great hope with the book, is that people will do book clubs with it, and that people, when they feel comfortable and as they feel comfortable, will share. And my two besties that I grew up with were like, how come you never told us this stuff? And the thing is that, think about cold storage like your freezer. Like my freezer, there's an ingredient in Puerto Rican food called sofrito, and we make it with cilantro and green pepper and garlic and all these different herbs, right? And a good Puerto Rican mom, and cook, always has some sofrito frozen in her freezer, always. And so I was cleaning out the freezer, and I took out this little container of sofrito, and I'm like, oh my God, I have sofrito back here, and like I put it to the front because it's like I can cook with this. I don't have to make it fresh. And so that's what happened with these stories, is that they get filed away, and this isn't important for the now. I can't deal with telling the truth about this now. I don't know what it's gonna mean for my life right now if I
Mm,
talk about this. And so the further back it goes, right?
mhm.
But there's something really freeing with me, this experience that I've had. And I will say it also, saying I am terrified about this book being out in the world. It's a very strange thing to say, having written it. um, but I'm also free. And like, it feels really, really good to
And
be
that
free.
feels much better than the fear, right? Freedom feels better than fear. That's for sure.
Yes.
You've worked with other Latinas in this space. How have you seen these women grow, went from when they started to being able to recognize the pattern, deconstruct the pattern, and then be freer? I'm not going to say free completely, but freer of the pattern.
Yeah. So a handful of Latinas have approached me over the years and asked me to coach them, while they're starting something, as they like create a side hustle before they quit their job, or maybe they were already entrepreneurs and they want to bring something to the world that's a little bit different or bigger or what have you. And so we've deconstructed quite a bit, and the problems associated and the challenges associated with starting something new, mostly mindset problems, because there's the problem or the challenge of, oh, should I be an LLC or an S corp? Like those are also
Sure.
problems. That's not my specialty. My specialty is I know what you're thinking when you are starting this thing. And I know and I can guide you because I know what the mindset is.
Like the biggest roadblock, right? Like you can figure out the LLC and all that stuff, but like until you get your mind right, and that's work
Yeah.
you have to do that you're not going to hire a business manager for. But like that's the work.
Yeah.
That's the hard stuff to get you from point A to point B sometimes.
Yeah, and you wanna know one of the most interesting things that comes up, especially with Latinas, is charging. Either A, charging at all, charging enough, and or just receiving large amounts of money for work.
What
Like,
is that about?
it is such a weird thing. So as a coach, I will never, like we talked about, pretend like I have made it or that I'm an expert on this. And so I am also in my own journey. So I'm always on my own journey. And so I'm always sharing from my journey. So they knew when I charged $2,000 per keynote, they knew and know that I now charge $25,000 per keynote. They know what came up for me at every single checkpoint because money comes up so much in individual coaching, but also in group coaching. And a lot of it is around deserving. And a lot of it is around really getting that something that I can do, right, has worth beyond what my expected role is. And a lot of people might be surprised that right now in 2026, that antiquated role of the edified mother, that Marianismo, the expectation to be a wife first or a great mother first before an entrepreneur, that entrepreneurship and a business should always come second, third, fourth. And so if I receive money that seems outsized for where I place this or where this is placed in my life, there is a clash of like a misunderstanding of worth. And so that comes up all the time. And it really can only be dealt with like head on. And
Mhm.
so raising prices, seeing how we feel, quoting prices, seeing how we feel. And like some of my clients and most of them actually, we just inch along. And I have a client who was literally like, I was like, you cannot charge $200 for this prod. Like, this is the last time you are charging $200 for this. And this was like when she first started out a few years ago. I think she was charging like $250, but she didn't have a certification. And the certification meant that maybe she could charge, let's say,
Perfect.
$500, right?
Right.
Yeah, because she's like, "Well, I'm not certified," except for that this was her, like, magnificent obsession. That's not my term. That's something I learned along the way that I love. It's like, she loves this. She's very good at it. She's the one that everybody talks to about this. She's actually a genealogist, but she struggled with charging her worth because she didn't have the certification. And after the certification, that was going to be the promised land. And then everything was going to open up, right? Except for that it didn't. She got the certification, but it wasn't everything. It didn't open everything up. It opened up a little bit, but the lie is that I'm unqualified. I don't have what I need. I need an external source to tell me that I'm valuable,
Oh,
right?
yes.
And so what happened with her, she did get that certification from that place, but not before I made her charge her value before that, which then she had to deal with all those feelings, right? Those feelings of worthiness. A lot of people think the struggle is not making the money. No, the biggest struggle is making the money. The biggest struggle is receiving large amounts of money or potentially receiving large amounts of money for the work that you do and dealing with yourself and your own beliefs about yourself, which it happens here. But the
Right.
other day, she calls me and she said for that same exact thing that years ago she could barely charge $200 for, she's now charging four figures for. And
Wow.
yeah, like over $5,000 four figures. And so like I was like, you have come so far. We had
And
like
the product hasn't changed. The way she viewed and valued herself is what changed.
Yes. And the thing is, and so it's a journey, right? And so that doesn't happen the next day, but it only happens when you are willing, or when a person is willing to to deal with that, to deal with the discomfort of our own worth. And so it's not about getting the job or not. It's about having the guts to know what it feels like to push send on sharing a price that you
Hmm.
charge, where you don't feel like you deserve it. But when someone you trust believes that you do, and
Right.
she trusted me, you
It's
know?
usually somebody else who believes in you more than you believe in yourself. And to bring that full circle is really, it comes back to, what we see is when we're young, right? And so when we are in that space as adults, we still go back to kind of, what we started with this conversation with is these deep seated moments in our life that weren't big, weren't loud, weren't, written in stone, but these belief systems that were just planted, that we took them with us wherever we went, and we
Yeah,
still hold on to them. So to be able to recognize them, deconstruct them, process through them, and realize, oh, that's a way of thinking, but it's not the only way of thinking. And I think that is what we can really get from your book. And this is certainly not like, we love our culture. Let's round this out with, this is not about our culture, right? Let's talk to
right.
me a little bit about that.
Love that you brought that up. And so, yes, it's because I love the culture that I'm willing to say this stuff, but it's just taboo, especially when you're part of a marginalized group. Because let's face it, Latinos in this country today and even yesterday, I mean, we're being hunted today, right? I mean, there's a reason to be scared today.
Our
And so,
value is in question daily on
yes.
what we are worth as humans because of where we come from, for sure.
Yes, being a loud voice and saying, hey, FYI, I recognize there's institutional reasons and structural reasons in place right now that will hold us back, that have held us back and continue to hold us back. And those aren't the only reasons why we are held back. There are reasons that live and breathe inside of our culture that get perpetuated by us that we just have no awareness of. And I really do believe that. I believe that if we if we knew better, we would do better.
Mhm.
And that I do feel that the women, um, we have an opportunity because we're the ones that pass down culture in families. We're the ones. And so I'm not saying men that you don't do it, but really women are the passers down of culture. And we have an opportunity to fix this. And so, and not like it's our fault, but it is something that we can chip away at.
Mhm.
And so it's because I love the culture that I'm I'm saying what I heard over the course of 10 years because people would take me aside and women would wait to talk to me and share their dreams with me, and then share their secrets with me, right? The things in cold storage. There was a story that I share in the book about a particular screening when women took me aside and they said, they shared secrets with me. And they said, would you ever do something about this? Because this is a cultural problem. We know it. And I knew it. And
Yeah.
so this is not about hating. This is about just saying, you know what, this part is expired. And a good metaphor is like our phones, like when we get the updates and we have to like have our phones plugged in. And then overnight the update comes, right? And so the update is supposed to make our phone function better. And most of the time it does. And so there are things in our culture that need to get plugged in and left overnight so that it can be improved and it can work for everybody. Because right now it doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah, and I also think that if we can take those things that have not served us and we continue to take them generation to generation, we can also do the opposite, which is then rectify them, process them, and do something different with them, like you are doing with your daughters, and then pass them down culturally in a new way. And then
Yeah.
that represents the totality of who we are as a people, because family and loyalty and hardworking and work ethic, all of these things also are very much in our culture as well. And so if we can fix, nobody's perfect, right? But if we can recognize these things, then we can move forward in a new way. And I just felt seen. It also gave me something to think about, like, literally just within the first couple of pages, I just was like, was able to process, like I started this interview with, why am I having such a hard time, with this new body situation? I'm like, because you couldn't show too much. You couldn't be too this, you couldn't be too that. And that's what it is in my mind. It has to be for like these valiant reasons that, that I do my work or that I am the mom that I am. Maybe it's just is because it's who I am. What do you hope people get from your book?
I hope that they get to have a conversation like this, and that in this world that like separates us, for whatever reason, that we feel more connected. And I wholeheartedly believe a connected person is a happier person. And we connect when we're at our very best, we
Mhm.
connect through sharing the truth.
Hey, you're still here. Man, your dedication to get to the end, that's inspiring. I'd be so grateful if you hit that follow button and share this episode. And if you really loved it, hey, leave a review, because validation is my love language. Until next time, in the immortal words of Journey, don't stop believing.